Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Alisha Braché here at Cosmic Gateway. Thank you so much for being here. This is the August um, energy update, or update, I should say, and we'll flow into the intuitive insight guidance as well. So, I don't even know where to begin. I was planning to take notes because so much has happened throughout the month of July. And I don't know about you guys, and I'd love to hear about your experience and where you feel that we're at in the comments. But it feels like completely being transported into an entirely different space. And as I feel into that, there is a sense of readiness or getting prepared or getting specific people who are on either going through that jump or leap or on the precipice of it or you know, on the on the trail towards it to kind of really get people in this. There's no other better way to say it, but soul alignment and readiness for what is about to transpire and come next. And I'll break that down in several different ways throughout what I'm going to share. So it really will just be, I've been meaning to make a video for a couple of weeks to talk more specifically about the work that I'm doing now with the quantum merging process, how that came about, and all the insights that are coming through. Um, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't because I've now been able to start to facilitate these sessions. And there's a lot of really validating information that's coming through, shared by the individuals as I'm co facilitating that process. So, in a way, I'm kind of glad that I didn't. And I will share a little bit in this video because I think it would have been front loading too much. And so, thank you to everyone who heard the call and who has joined for the initial intake, should I say, for the soul merging experience or process that I am deep, like a crazy mad scientist, deep in the phase of understanding the nuances and working out, refining it more and more each time. So thank you for those people. What I plan to do, as I've had um, the amount of people join that as I was called to get a certain number of individuals so I could start to work out what I was shown. Like, let's backtrack. How let's backtrack. um, so throughout the month of July, I think it was the last video that I did, I was certainly feeling the energy or awareness of a lot of activation codes coming through. And I don't think that July disappointed with that. Intimately, there was so much internal activation or re emitting a frequency, getting switched back on, as I like to call it, that was coming through. And there was an energy that felt new and different, and I couldn't put language around it. Now it all makes a lot more sense because I was told with that energy, you'll be developing and working with something completely new by the end of the month. And so here we are. So I just want to thank a really big thank you to all the people who have connected with me throughout the month of July because I truly believe that without your input, whether you're aware of it or not, it kind of wouldn't have got that work to where it is and where it's still developing. So initially it sort of came through a cluster of sessions. And often practitioners like myself, we see the trends and the themes and the clusters of commonality factors. And I love that because it piques my curiosity and I want to know more and I want to learn and I want to understand. And I want to get a bigger picture so that it can be more beneficial to share and help and support. But I went through several just normal individual sessions and I was starting to be shown things that I couldn't unsee. It was learning and understanding, and also this comes through my own experience. I know that I've shared a lot of information around parallel realities or road timelines, and I feel like that's a very predominant theme. It feels like from what is happening and what I'm witnessing, I think this is a process that's happening to everyone to some degree. And I want to deepen and connect and work with that to really get the best out of the poignancy of what is occurring. And that will dive into where I think it's all transpiring or heading into. But dealing with looking at a lot of different energies, implants, technologies, trauma imprints, it comes in a wide variety and it's going to be individual or broken down to the individual that is potentially scattering consciousness and energy from what may be deemed as the oversoul or the super consciousness into a lot of unnecessary timelines, inorganic, inorganic expressions. Based off one of the sessions that I did about a week or two ago now, I went to bed kind of mulling on this information. And this may not apply to everyone, so just take it as it resonates. Like I'm just sharing my observations. But for this particular individual, it was very clear that their consciousness was being utilized in the only way that I can describe it is like timeline wars, fighting, battling. And I know, and I speak to this because I know that so many of you that connect with me resonate with this and reach out and share with me what's occurring in real time. And so there's a lot of patterns and trends. But what I felt was sometimes that this can happen on a level of a soul agreement. And I think ultimately, when we go to the highest level of perception, it is all that. But this felt quite, don't want to use the word nefarious because that's not quite the word that I'm looking for. I just had it. Non-consented, essentially. And the consciousness was being fractaled into up to about 12 timelines that were all based around war, fight, battle. And this is for an individual who's not that way in this slipstream of reality. And there was definitely technology that was having an effect on that. And the consequences of that and what it will look like through the human experience is feeling very disconnected from self and having a lack of drive, energy, motivation, just feeling like overall, what's the point? You know, and I could expand on that, but that's just like the overarching context. And so I went to bed that night after that session, just kind of taking it all in, and as I do, just kind of processing it all. And it kind of what came to me was like, this is like an enlisting. You know how like there's a war, and maybe not now, but like, I think about Vietnam, and there's an enlisting, and they call up people and kind of like put them into the military or the army to go and serve. This felt like an enlisting that is non-voluntary. I got really angry because I do believe that this happens and occurs a lot more than it's ever spoken about to people. But what I was shown in that particular session is to be able to dismantle and unarm that technology and then reutilize it to kind of neutralize it or override it within those timelines and collective fields. So the work is becoming really advanced in the creative capacity of what we can do if we do detect some of these things. And so what I was seeing was a lot of technology that is being utilized very similar. How it was being shown to me is like very similar to MK Ultra mind control, but not necessarily someone who's in this reality been through that. But this is technology that does a very similar thing. It fractals consciousness. It makes people dissociative. It spreads their consciousness in through multiple streams that are a lot of them are inorganic. So it's not the betterment to the individual in this reality or to the soul's experience per se. Not to dismiss it, because I think there's always different perspectives, right, of viewing these. And I'm sure if we went to the highest level, there is a purpose to it, to dismantle it from within, of course, to get the corrupted codes and to rewrite the codes. And I'm sure all of that is taking place. But where I feel like we're at is so many people have the opportunity right now to be able to dismantle that if that is taking place. So there's variations of this. And that's why I was told to take a certain number of people and to just witness the different variables of what is possible, because ultimately it kind of all looks the same. It just comes from different origins. Some is what I've just described in so many different variables. I'm not even going and that's the part that really kind of excites me. But then there is also the trauma component too, um, that works within doing the exact same thing. It's just a different source of how that, let's say, corrupted software and hard drive has been malfunctioning to not allow you to fully access as much of your consciousness into this body in this reality at this time. And that is one of the greater reasons why I feel like we get stuck in loops, repeating cycles, patterns. Reality plays out in these loops. And it's like, if we can work with dismantling that, we can break outside of the loop. And ultimately, what I'm trying to get to with this process is, how can we be operating in the most level of consciousness here and now, merge the organic, and I'll talk about my experience with this, all the organic parallels or timelines into one stream of consciousness. So there may be aspects that still need to be working in alternate reality timelines, right? That can be part of what is happening or in what you've written, essentially. But they're always going to impact and affect one another. So it's like getting them all on board to work in coherence with one another. And that brings a lot more unification and solidifies how we're operating here and now. And we can positively impact whatever's going on in those other. And that's, since I've started this process of myself, I always make myself the first guinea pig before I go out and test drive it on anyone else. And it's been probably the biggest game changer I've found at this point, and I'm still developing it. So it's certainly very, very exciting. So going back to, sorry, I'm jumping around. So what I've decided to do is I will still offer it at a slightly lower rate for the next couple of weeks through August as like a August special. It won't be at the half price. I've onboarded as many people as I need to test drive this. But I will still offer the ongoing support, and just offering it at $88 discount for a couple of weeks, and then it will go up to its full price. It's very in depth. It is about me facilitating you going through your own experience with support and prompting. But ultimately, I want to empower the individual to be able to read through their field and dismantle whatever's going on that is blocking or obstructing them to access. In some cases, and in some cases, there is going into the different timelines of parallels, understanding what each aspect is working on operating, if that is to be revealed. Sometimes it's not necessarily important to know. In my case, when I went through my own experience, it was dismantling a lot of inorganic technology that has come in through various means. And then I was able to work with all the different streams of where my consciousness was operating organically, and then be able to pop into them, look around, experience them, witness them, have an understanding of what is taking place, and then doing the energetic process of merging them together so they're operating in one unit. And so essentially being able to bring more consciousness here. And there's a big component of working with the body, because I'm a big believer that if we don't have our body working in its optimum capacity, we can't be an optimum host to hold that level of energy and consciousness. We completely fry our nervous system, we fry ourselves out. So there's working with the nervous system, which is a really key component. So what I've been exploring is how we can reverse illness, chronic pain. As I was going to sleep last night, it came through so strongly that if we have illness in the body, disease, injury, as an experience of, let's say, breaking it down as a corrupted code of disease, disconnect, we also have the code within us that overrides that. But I guess one of the things that has also come through is what I could only call as multi-dimensional trauma. For some people, it's going back into other lifetimes that are still coexisting, because there's a thread or there's something stuck or something traumatic happened that's still influencing this version now. Then there's what ties into programs, SSP, ET abductions, which I guess is my jam. I'm not gonna lie, I highly enjoy those sessions. Probably a little bit more than what I should, but that's something that I relate to, and I can understand from a lived experience. But it's to explain it in very human terms. It's like when you go through a period or phase in your life and there's overriding frequencies or bleed through energy that you cannot shake. It's like living life being an empty vessel, living life with a background hum of an emotion or like mental programming, or just an awareness that there is something that feels uncomfortable that is taking place, that is completely out of context of my life right now. Call it anxiety, call it heightened awareness, whatever that may be. And these are the things I love getting to the core of, because if we can clean that up, it completely changes our experience of what we can do in alignment with our highest potential. And so what I really want to explore with this is like the absolute optimum of human potential and knowing what we're capable of. And essentially can, and I believe this is true because I've had my own peak experiences, as I'm sure many of you have, when we go through something like a mass activation or a Kundalini awakening or a cosmic awakening. It really came back to the question of why is it? And I understand that there is a need for healing and things like that. But why do people, so many people go through an awakening and then essentially gets shut off or switched off? And how can we override that so that they can maintain a level of knowing through that, even through the healings and the traumas and things that may unpack or it reveals? And ultimately, that's what it's designed to do. But I feel like we're at a whole new game. We're in a whole new playing field right now of where we're at, especially what I would call the conscious awareness community. I think we're moving into a totally different phase where we can maintain that level um, ongoing to varying degrees. And so when I look at the bigger picture of this, like how many people, whether it's through me or someone else, because I have no doubt in my mind that there are other practitioners out there kind of doing very similar work or building new set of, and I think that's kind of where we're at. We need to kind of quantum leap into creating new modalities and therapies and techniques and processes that is capturing where we're at now, because where we're at now is very different to where we were, say, 6 months ago. And it's like trying to be ahead of the trend to be able to help and support those that align with us. And so I have no doubt that there is many people out there probably doing a version of what I'm doing. And this isn't new. I mean, this is just combining all the different types of things that I've been doing over the years, but it feels like it's being refined so much more now to have like ongoing benefits. And another thing, I love it because like I'll have questions and then I go into a deep dive of rabbit holing for information, kind of doing my research essentially. And I'll explain a few cool stories. I've always been so fascinated by timelines intercepting, merging, correlating, and really trying to understand the mechanics behind it. And I I spent about two weeks on a binge, and I didn't actually realize that there was so much information out there of people doing timeline glitch stories or matrix glitch stories, people having experiences of completely jumping into a parallel reality that was vastly different, and then either being stuck there for a period of time or coming back. I've been exploring a lot around the concept of quantum immortality and is the massive shift in consciousness that we're preparing to go through. It will have been ongoing, but as we get to the peak or the crescendo of that, is that a type of quantum immortality? Do we die to the old self? And I think back to so many experiences I've had where I wouldn't call it an NDE, so to speak, but likened to where I had a I had a multiple series of brushes with death that were very, very close together. One was a near fatal car accident where if the car that I almost collided was like a centimeter, like would have collided, I would have been taken out entirely. And I had a few other situations, like violent situations that occurred in my life around my workplace. It all kind of coincided around like, I want to say weeks of each other. This was going back a long time ago. It's kind of like in the lead up to 2012, I think. But I know that that completely reset my trajectory. And it was almost like an aspect of a walk in. It was almost like the version that I was up until that moment completely died, and I'm sure that many of you can relate to having those experiences even without having the near death, but this is the thing that's really piqued my interest. And I think this kind of catapulted from recent experiences where I was out driving early one morning, driving home, only to see someone who lives on my street driving pass me. And it's a fairly common car, so I did the double take and kind of looked in and saw that it was the person that I know driving the car. And I just thought, oh, they're out early. It wasn't a big deal. Only to 5 minutes later, pulling in to going through my street, coming home, seeing that car was parked in the driveway with frost all over it. So there was absolutely no way that that car that I was seeing was the one that passed me 5 minutes ago, although I know it was. And I know that the person that was driving it was, the person that lives on my street. And so that's where I'm talking about this level of we're going quantum now because this is happening in a much more significant way than what it was, a month or two, you know. Whereas like the more minor things of like, I put my keys here and then they disappear and then but this is like we're talking about like actual people interacting. And one of the best examples of this that I was probably my first encounter. I was like, whoa, there are literally intercepting timelines converging here. I think it happened to around 2017. And I woke up one morning and I was thinking about my brother and a particular aspect of his life. It was just a thought. I didn't do anything about it. It was just like a thought that I woke up. I got about my day, and then probably later that afternoon, I got a phone call from my parents, and we were chatting, and they said, "Oh, by the way, your brother wants to know why you didn't respond to his text message." And I was like, "What text? What do you mean? I haven't got a text message." And they said, "Yeah, apparently you messaged him early this morning talking about the exact thing that I was thinking about, and it didn't make sense to him because it was out of context." And he responded, and I never, in his reality, he responded to that text message and I never responded back. Whereas in my reality, I had a thought, didn't act on it. I did. I went back. I double checked my phone because I'm like, did I do that in my sleep? Like maybe. But there was no trace evidence of a text message that I had sent that he actually had on his phone. And so that's the level of there's like slight different variations of when we have a strong thought about something, there is a quantum version of us. And I think when there's too much of that going on, that's when we can feel like this empty shell because there's too many quantum possibilities. So it's like being able to harness and rope all of that in, bringing it back to self, because that's where we can experience the miraculous healings. We can step into a much more heightened version of ourselves with our gifts and our abilities, etc., etc., etc. And as I said, like I've been having messages and insights and dreams coming in about this topic and theme now, very consistently for a month. That this is a process that has been in play for most part of this year. I mean, it's an ongoing process, but I think much more concentrated, especially in the last 3 months of, collecting energy essence. This can happen a lot through dream space. And it points and indicates to me that we're gearing up for something quite significant. And the reason that all of our pieces of consciousness are coming back to us in this present moment is this is where the action is about to take place and where it is needed. Whereas when we go through those phases of the big multi-dimensional cleanup, still ongoing. I mean, every night for me, it feels like living 3 lives in one, just in, 8 to sometimes 12 hours worth of sleep and waking up feeling quite exhausted. And I know that that's that's been a big theme for a lot of people at present. So I know that it's something we're gearing up to something here. But essentially, can we go through what would be considered an event or solar flash experience internally without an external catalyst of events? I believe that that is possible because I think that's what occurs when we have those peak awakening experiences. We come into ourselves more fully, more of our consciousness is here. So the bigger ripple impact that I kind of see from the bird's eye perspective is the more of us that are doing this work, however that presents and looks, right? The greater the influence we have within the collective field. It's almost like I feel like I got a taste of this back in March sometime, maybe earlier, maybe it was January, February. But it's like I feel like we're coming into a time where so many of us will be operating from that higher self level of full embodiment to bring through the unique projects and gifts, abilities, and inventions that is required to. I feel like we're at a very important point for humanity as a whole over the next 6 to 18 months. Oh, and it feels like we're gearing up for like boots on the ground. You've been in training. You didn't have an awakening for no reason, right? And I know that so many of us have felt like that, especially over the last 12 months of being so destabilized or disconnected from the bigger version of self. And it can make you feel crazy because it's like, I went through all of that for what? Like now I feel just like an empty vessel. I feel like a shell because all my consciousness is out having a party, not having a party, but sometimes it can feel like that, right? But yeah, so that's and so I had two dreams that were indicating this. One, the first one was given this analogy of the quantum merging process, or the soul recalibration unity process. Imagine that there are, let's say, 8 glasses of water. There's one in the center, and that represents you, the person that I'm speaking to right now. The others that are gathered around in in like a circle, and the quantity of water that would take up one entire glass, which is someone's entire consciousness, is being sprinkled throughout all of the glasses. So you might have like 5% there, 10% there. It's just, and they're all operating, impacting one another, but they're not working together. They're kind of, you know, I don't want to say working against each other, but it could be. It could be. And what I was shown was what we're doing now is we're getting all the glasses and we're pouring all the essence back into the one, or at least connecting the stream so that that can happen naturally when it's time to. So the second experience that I had was it was quite personal to myself, but then it kind of broadened. I could see that it was a bigger process than just me. I was laying in bed and I was super aware that there was an aspect of me that was perhaps on watercraft, overseeing myself as a human. And I kind of took the switch and I turned myself back on. um, and I could feel in that moment lying in bed, like my whole energy kind of went into this heightened, aware, activated state almost lit up. And that's what I've been noticing up until that point, was when I look into people's energy field just around in general, everyone feels so dulled down. There's no life force, there's no luminosity that's really vibing through most people, you know. And as that occurred, I started to see all the lights in and around me start to be switched on too. It was almost not that I was doing it, but it was like the higher aspect of themselves was like switching them all on, switching them all on. So I woke up quite ecstatic from that because I could feel the energy that was just like, oh, there I am. I feel like I've been missing for quite a, you know, it's been a battle. I'm not gonna lie. Like I feel like somewhere around mid last year, I went to bed, had an experience, and I woke up and felt like I had been turned off for the most part. And it's been this constant hum of this background noise, knowing that there was, you know, parts of my consciousness operating in different realities that weren't. It felt like I'd been flung onto the wrong timeline. It felt like I was put for an extended period of time a non-essential timeline. And I'm sure that in the bigger scheme of things, it was important, but I can tell you it was not fun, not fun at all. And it didn't matter what I did, I just couldn't shift gears. Um, the reason that I say this is I know that I've had so many conversations with so many people individually that have felt the same way, but that feels like that has shifted quite significantly. So if you identify with that or you can relate to that and you're not quite there yet, it's coming. Don't you worry, it's coming. Um, so just trying to think. Right now, I feel like I'm just sharing bits and pieces from my own experience because one thing that has been coming to me a lot in the last month, maybe two, is this whole concept of individualization, being a part of the collective, but not being drawn into it, really being solid in my own slipstream of reality and not being overly influenced or impacted to what's taking place out there, whether that be engaging in social media, looking at what's going on. It just feels like background hum and mind chatter. It was like really just focus in on the individual process and like getting you into a state of alignment so you can be ready to receive this next thing that wants to come to you. And I think that many of us are at that point. So this whole process of like back in your own lane, individualization, don't get, because I think that's part of what can be a facet of the inorganic expression of getting tied into other timelines that aren't even relevant to us in our own process because of distraction and being pulled here and pulled there unnecessarily. So there's been a lot of downtime, a lot of silence, a lot of just being really present with what the sound of the voice of my soul wants to communicate to me. And it's so funny because when I started this process, you got to follow through, right? Like that's the whole point. We get all these like downloads and insights and inspiration, but we've got to actually act on following through. And the first thing I was told was like, you need to like detox the body and detox your entire life. So cleaning house on all levels. And I did that quite intensely. And it's still an ongoing process, but quite intensely for weeks. And then once it got to a point, if it felt really pristine and clean, external environment, internal environment, that's where all the guidance and insights of like, okay, now start working with this, now start working with that. And once again, the reason for me sharing all of this is I think that it's going to strike a chord with a lot of you in your own way and whatever it is that you're working on, wherever you're at. And I'm a bit reluctant to share it, but I feel like I should. I had another experience just last weekend. Once again, minding my own business. I think I was actually in the bath, enjoying just relaxing. And then I heard you're going to get taken on board a craft. Now, I'm sharing this with like, take it as a grain of salt because I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on it. It's simply an experience that I had, things that I was shown, awarenesses that made a lot of sense to me. Um, and I think that there could be very, like, from the way that I interpret it through my own experience, can be you can take the message and interpret it in a different perceptional view that is more concurrent to your beliefs and understandings. Anyway, getting back to it. So I get out of the bath and I go and I lie down. And as I'm lying down, all of a sudden there's all these beings walking around me. I was like, oh God, okay. And it's only what I could describe as what looks like the stereotypical grays. Now I can't with any certainty say, yes, it's the grays. I did not inquire at all. It just, that was the appearance of how I saw them. And I heard, we're going to take you and show you something. Next thing I know, I'm completely on board what seemed to be quite an advanced technological craft. It may have been a base somewhere. To me, that's what it felt like, but it was not a place that I was familiar with. It's not a place that I go quite regularly. There's a place that I go that does feel like it's much more comfortable, familiar, let's say. And I was shown all of this data extraction technology. And I was a little bit overwhelmed by what I was seeing because I was like, why are you showing me this? Like, I don't even know exactly what I'm looking at. But essentially, what I was told was that a lot of the tech that is being dismantled, um, being able to be detected and cleared and dismantled, this has been, I believe, this has been in effect for a long time, and it impacts a lot more people than I would be even game to say. Um, but essentially, it was like there was some sort of contracts and agreements that were in play that represent a lot of government bodies here on Earth that work with more of a ET intelligence. It's almost like they were the subcontractors to extract a lot of this data and information that essentially is keeping people dulled down in their level of consciousness to kind of delay the awakening process. So I feel like, and this goes into a whole new ball game, but I think that those that have the most influence and impact to create change in this world and collective consciousness are the people who tend to be the mess with the most. And whether that comes through what I was just talking about or through trauma, I think that there is a higher intelligence to it to go through that to unravel it for sure. But I think that there is a lot of messy in between that perhaps is additional to what we have taken on a soul level. But a lot of learning, right? And so as I was being shown all this like data and info, it just looked like a lot of graphs and a lot of like reading brain waves, frequencies. I won't go into it in a lot more detail because I was only shown bits and pieces, but essentially I was being shown in the work that I'm doing when I come across these types of tech and implants that are particularly in the brain, but they can go into all sorts of other parts of the body. This is what was being extracted. It's a whole, and I said, well, why are you showing me this? And they were like, well, this is paired with the work that you're doing to kind of override it, correct it, support, facilitate the correction of it. And I was told that there were agreements in place that the contracts have now been completed for those individuals who may be impacted by this, but it's still playing out and it hasn't hit what we would perceive in our linear time as done. But that time is coming. I was being given a specific date in September that is when it's almost like that's very specific type of technology that interferes with people's timelines and looping ends. But what I was also shown was the importance of the awareness and the highlighting that you have to be consciously aware that there's stuff that's been obstructing to dismantle it, because even if it gets deactivated, it only like disintegrates like minimally over time, and you can accelerate that process essentially by doing the inner work, and whether that's on your own or having someone support and facilitate that. As I said, take that message with a grain of salt. I'm still digesting it and like, what was that? It wasn't something I was looking for. It just showed up. But in a way, it makes a lot of sense. I was being shown the time frames of that it has been the most influential and impactful is over the last 5 to 7 to 10 years, because that was the points of where there was peak moments of potential event flash ascension event, like massive shifts that could have taken place. I believe that we've had several potentialities that have then peaked and then fallen away. And I've talked about this several times. And I know that most of you have felt that in effect too. And I feel like some of this tech, whether you see it as technology, whether you see it in a different light, that's completely fine. But it makes a lot of sense to me of like why people go into really heightened, prepared states of awareness or on that highest trajectory and then kind of fall away. And I feel like we're coming to the end of that now, which is incredibly exciting. Incredibly. So let's wait and see, huh? I mean, I absolutely don't like to make any type of predictions. I think we're beyond that in this. Everything's kind of gone hyper quantum and it's a very individual, but it is interconnected. And I think that we're at some peak and pivotal times right now. And if it wasn't for all of you doing the immense work that you do in your own capacity, we wouldn't be here. So I just want to extend that level of gratitude and thank you to all of you. I see the work that you do and know it's not easy. But we're making some big waves, some big waves of positive change. So I think that's all. I mean, I'm sure I could talk about this timeline convergence. I was shared a couple of months ago, there is like this deep timeline convergence that will take place this year. But as I said, the next 6 to 18 months is quite huge collectively. And so I feel like a lot of us are being called to really step up our game. And when I say that, I mean step into our authenticity, step into our fullness, our greatness, what we're here to do, um, and feel the joy coming back in, have those beautiful moments. And as I reflect on the month that has just gone, the waves of ecstatic feeling, yeah, ecstaticness. I don't know if that's the correct word, but I felt like my soul was having like an ecstatic dance party of celebration. My human didn't understand, like I have no idea, but it felt like on a soul level, I think we reached something quite pivotal. And I think I was feeling the waves of that coming through, but not having any context of like why. And I think that's going to become much more known as we unravel through the rest of 2025. So I'll leave it there. I'll wrap it up. So the announcements are I am planning to host the first Soul Connection gathering on Friday, the 8th of August at 7 for 2 hours, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's going to be a little bit different. It's more about a gathering and connection, sharing experiences, exchanging frequency through conversation. Active, it feels like how I've been shown is like it's an activation through awareness and conversation. I will facilitate a smaller individual kind of attunement process, like attunement activation, guided process for the group throughout that 2 hour period, but it's more about community based and sharing, coming together in that beautiful exchange. So if you feel called, I would love to have you come and join. I do now have the Soul Retrieval Experience on the website, which you can access, which is inclusive of 14 guided processes. And then, of course, quantum merging, that offer will be in effect for the next week or so, probably up until the 8th, if I'm honest, for the discount until it goes up to its full price. So if you'd like to connect with me in any of those ways, that would be wonderful. If not, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we're doing great work in the ethers. So let's move along now, and we'll get into the actually no, sorry, before we do that, I want to share this one. I was guided to share this. After seeing it, all that I've just shared and explained, I went to bed one night and I did like a very, and I'm not one of declarations, but it felt like it was coming from deep within me that I had to make this declaration. And it was basically of the effect of I now cancel all contracts, agreements, null and void through time, space, dimension, timelines, known and unknown, null and void. All my consciousnesses returned back to me in its purest, most organic state of expression. I declare that no technology, known or unknown, can work through me without my consent, restore my body back to my most pure I can't remember frequency expression. There was a lot more. Insert your own, whatever you feel called to. And as soon as I went to bed, I was worked on for 5 hours straight. There was so much stuff that was unraveled through me. And then all of a sudden, I felt my pure frequency just, and this went on for 4 hours, 5 hours, I believe. And I woke up and it was like, oh, this like self-imposed prison energetically that was ingrained through my nervous system that I hadn't been fully able to shake had been kind of completely released. So it's been a huge month for me, and I hope it has for you in so many different ways. And I hope that my sharing of my own experiences and observations has really been insightful to give you a little bit of ahas before we get into the intuitive insights. So I did want to share that if you feel called to do that in any way, just breaking any agreements or contracts that may be unknown to you through different timelines of existence, to restore your energy back to you, because this is what is happening and occurring. I have absolute no doubt in my mind. This is what is taking place, at a slow, steady rate. But I do believe that if we're consciously working with it, we can accelerate that process or bring more conscious awareness to it and actively work with it. And I think that's essential. So let's get into it. Let's go and see what these intuitive insight guidance have to say for the month of August. Let's jump into A. So if you've chosen this little one here, and just start to tune in. Okay. I picked the first thing I was going to say is I'm getting real Lemurian type energy coming through, but I picked up the Lemurian or Beyond Lemuria cards, but there's a lot of pyramids that I'm seeing in this one, and it feels like a bit of like an advanced type of technology. They're translucent and they're in different colors. I feel like this has to sink in with something that is like an energetic overlay or patterning, because it's kind of making sacred geometry patterns occurring. And I keep getting the words in the back of my mind that now isn't the time or the most opportune time. When I say this, I'm talking in like the beginning of August or initially, like now isn't the time to jump into the productivity of what it is that you're looking or inspired to create. There's a level of deeper inner reflection or introspective. It's like asking you to just like pull in a little bit more, because it feels like there are very specific codes or pieces that haven't quite yet come into formation that will make all the difference. So it's almost like if you were to like leap into productivity and action oriented in this very moment, it may just fall short a little bit. But that time is coming and it's nearing. So it's like maybe going in and asking those questions of like, what is those two final pieces that kind of magnify whatever it is that you're developing or working on? This could be personal development. It could be something that you're actually making or constructing. It's funny because I see artists. I see a lot of like artisan energy coming in around this, of like creating sculptures or like actually constructing something quite tangible and physical. But there's two pieces. It almost looks like crystals to me, but this, I don't think it's like specific. look, it could be working with crystals, but to me, it feels like more energetic expressions of like a crystal energy that comes in to play, and it kind of explodes and amplifies. And it's like if you can just get those two pieces in and in a line, and this could be in the energetic structure of your body, like if you're going through some type of health reconfiguration or energetic, it's like these two pieces that come in like right. This is where it feels like it needs to come in right on the center line of the throat, and then from there it can open up so much more with the reverberation of sound or quantifying whatever it is that you're have been working on. What is this? Like, yeah, there's like all this. I want to use the word quantum computing. I don't even know what that means in this context, but there's like lots of different pyramid shapes, triangular shapes kind of coming in and creating this geometry, but there's like two center point pieces that come in. And there's a lot around the throat, expression, speaking, singing, making sound. Like there's that component to it. So there's a lot of blue energy that's coming in to support that. I almost feel like if you were to dive deep just while I'm talking, I feel like those two parts could appear through this reading. It's really true because I feel like I'm actively like doing multiple sessions in this. Hmm. Going to sound really abstract, but I'm sure it's going to land for someone or some people right now. But it's like this, it's like they're the spheres of light or energy that make everything else turn or go into a cohesion or an alignment that accelerates and amplifies whatever it is that you're working on. Mm. Really feels like it's quite an intricate process, but there feels like there's multiple levels of energetic overlay that is occurring. And so this is just a different vantage point, but it's like I look at someone who's potentially laying in bed or on a healing table, and there's like parts of self coming back into that process of self-realization. And I keep getting the word quantum entanglement. So this feels as though this is in relation with another, potentially someone on a soul level. And I almost want to say, as you're doing this, it's impacting another in a great and profound and specific way. It's almost like, the concept of when inventions are being given or coming into consciousness, and that many people's antennas pick it up at the same time all around the world, and then a new invention is born. This has similar principles to it, but it feels like it's unique for two people. It's almost okay. All right. Okay. I see where we're going here. It's almost as though two people that have a shared path or mission that's co-joined, that hasn't like been able to coincide harmoniously or like click into place. It feels like both are in receivership of that aha, that idea, that whatever that thing is, right? And then there feels like there's this quantum entanglement process that then the pieces come into play, and there's this energetic exchange that is occurring. This could be like a business partner or co-founder, or it could be in relation. There's a level of soul quantum entanglement that is occurring through this process. And so like the timing factor is quite critical. The timing factor is quite critical and crucial, because it's like I was saying in the beginning, you jump into action, it's like the other person hasn't been in the full receivership of that. So it doesn't have the extra to it. Sorry, there's a lot of sounds. Um, but I'm seeing this really big, vast picture of this kind of happening in, I don't want to say en masse because I think it's very specific individuals, but this is happening for more than just one. And it feels like it's a weaving or interweaving or merging of through that. It feels very non-verbal communication or exchange that happens. And this will be individual based, because some may be actually, like on the phone, but it's like this weaves and intersects a whole lot more than what it is that it's part of the bigger picture. It feels, it feels like potent. And I can just see all these threads and streams, these blue lines just like coming and into weaving and intersecting and like solidifying, like joining, like being what's the word I'm looking for? Like soldered together. And then it becomes like these silver strands and threads. It feels like it's reworking and in to the nature or the tapestry of reality. It's changing a lot of coding. I often see the matrix coding as binary sequence code in green in the inverted or inorganic, but this is blue, and blue to me represents a much more organic expression, like blueprint encoding. But this feels like the piece that you're working on that's intercepted with this quantum entanglement with another who shares a commonality in that pathway. Whether you do it together or you do it separately, it's like you're being given the blueprint of that coming in. It creates a ripple that is connected to a much larger, broader network that's interwoven. There's many, many pieces. And it feels like over the coming months to years, that all finds itself and connects into a much larger, project or collaboration. But it's like the energetic groundwork that's being laid and ground and anchored in. It is feels to me what is occurring right now. Oh, awesome. And I just keep hearing it's like rewriting and reweaving the codes of creation. So much energy coming in with this. I think that this ties a lot into what I've been talking around like last month, and it will continue on the soul points, like the soul destiny points, like coming into effect and into play. Feels like it's coming in a little bit en masse. And it almost, I can hear it as a, it's almost like I can hear the energy of it. It almost feels like it's a choir of sounds and voices and in symphony, in harmony with one another. Ooh, this is. Mm. It has a lot to do around voice and communication. So opening up lines of communication. When I go back to those 2 points in the side of the throat, it's like they come together and activate. It's like two parts that when they're separate, they're relatively dormant, and then they merge and come intersect into like the throat chakra. And it's like this, I see it as like a gold and or silver or platinum frequency. It's like a spark. So there's a real emphasis on being able to communicate and express, write, document, bringing it into a form of tangibility is important. Mm. And I just have this inflow or in sync feeling around it that comes with it. It's like, yeah, all these components are happening. There's a bigger picture, but just in the individual experience, there's a sense of flow and inner peace and stillness that comes with it. It's like knowing that feeling of knowing that you're on point, and it's almost like you've latched onto the thread, and it's like it's pulling you towards on that pathway. And it's like each day feels like it brings different components of awe and elements of surprises, and like, wow, that just kind of nicely fell into place. That's kind of like the feeling or sensation that they get around it. Oh, okay. Let's have a look at the let's have a look at the cards. We've got the water. Oh, so we've got the number 12 water, the overflow. And that to me, when I look at it, it's like the stream of divine inspiration pouring in and the many hands that make light work. But it's the many facets of your multidimensionality being able to function from that center point of the heart space, because I'm really drawn to that. I thought it was a butterfly. It's actually a heart, a luminous heart in the center there. But it's like being in the flow or in the stream and allowing the overflow to kind of flood into reshaping and rechanging your reality as you see it or perceive it. And there may be some quite distinctive and noticeable kind of shifts and changes of, like, when you can, like, you do a big energy clearing and all of a sudden, like, you walk into a room or an environment and everything just feels different, even though maybe nothing fundamentally has changed. It has that kind of, wow, it's like shifted, it's shifted. So we have number 28. We've got gracious receptivity. And I feel like that is the onflow of the flow coming in and being able to be in that receivership mode of whether it's the inspirations, whether it's the means, the abundance, the flow of whatever it is that you need in that moment to kind of move things along. It's like, then now you can be in the energy of receivership because it's kind of flowing to and through you, and it's like you're just the conduit of that expansion of consciousness that wants to be experienced, that wants to ripple, it wants to come into form. And so then we have the 30, the healing card. And I almost want to say that to me feels like that's indicative of the internal work that you've already done that's allowed you to kind of step into this space right now. That to me just feels like being in harmony or alignment. So interesting. Look at this. Go back to this card. Look at the two hummingbirds, like the two pieces, and then the throat all happening. It's kind of a little bit of what I was describing. I didn't see that before. Cool. Mm. I almost want to say work with your guidance team or spirit animals. Like work with the elements of nature to support you in getting into that flow and maintaining it, because that's important. And I feel like you will be able to get into the maintaining of that flow, which feels like a real breath of fresh air. So we've got the little children and the family card that comes up. Family card's in reverse. Little children is upright. And we have the internal embrace. So the little children card, obviously that can speak to actual children, but the nature of this card is more of a being in a childlike state of awe and wonder and expression and creativity, of being not having the adult inhibitions that we can have of fear of judgment or lack or insecurity or not enoughness. It's like being in that awe or childlike state in your creativity. And I think that that in itself will start to enhance. Interesting, the family card in reverse. So the family card talks about the biological bloodline, family that you have been born into as a learning opportunity for soul growth. And the fact that it's come up in the reverse position feels to me like that is potentially what has been a limitation for you in some capacity, whether it's been conscious or unconscious. But that has been a drawback of being able to really go into that childlike awe state or that flow. Perhaps it's been some sort of conditioning or programming or limitation that, and maybe it's just a timing thing. Perhaps you have small children, or perhaps you've had family commitments that you haven't been able to kind of be fully immersed in what it is that you want to do, but it feels like there's some sort of finality or completion around a certain family dynamic or situation that essentially kind of frees up your time or liberates you in some way to be more in that internal embrace. So that the internal embrace card is about embracing the dualistic nature and merging it back into unity. It doesn't necessarily talk about a couple or two people, although it could be representative, because I know that that was part of what came through earlier in this. I was about to say this session, this reading, but ultimately it's about the soul unity in yourself, of being able to love and nurture each part of the dualistic nature that you hold, the polarities that you hold, and unifying them as one. So that could be talking about an internal process that you've been on or in the process of, and then this could then manifest as a external of working with another, or being in coherence with another. Let's get a few more final cards. There's definitely an element or elemental component to this because I'm just seeing everywhere. Um, Too many to decipher, but whatever is your we've got the balance, harmony, and temperance card, and we've got the 10 of Cups, the blessed love life or ultimate fulfillment can be another way to. There's definitely some, like, I would say, some really huge changes in progress. Oof. Okay, that's an interesting. We've got the three of swords because it almost feels like there's like going back to that internal embrace card. There's like dualistic natures of like ultimate fulfillment in love of self, love life, relationship dynamic, whatever that represents. But there's also the unexpected revelation, which can, in the traditional sense of the Three of Swords, can be betrayal, heartbreak, deception, loss. But it feels a bit more like a loss of an old identity. I'll show them now. Or it could be putting to bed like feelings of hurt or woundedness, like that you've gone through prior that have brought up those feelings. Like you may have gone through some massive upheavals, and it's like putting that to bed now so that you can really march or move forward. And yeah, putting grievances aside for the greater good is just some of the phrases that are coming through. Working back in cohesion and harmony, repairing, no longer going through the internal reprimanding of oneself, but coming into a higher perspective and understanding and being able to heal. Okay, that's a lot going on in this one. But I just to summarize and come back into completion for this, yeah, we've got the Six of Wands, the wisdom of experience ultimately is wisdom of experience. Then there might be like birthdays or celebrations or milestones coming up, but work with the spirit animal energy because that feels really grounding, nurturing, powerful, protective, even. Like I just had like a wolf flash up in front of me. Like whatever it is that you need to call upon to support you and what you're moving through, like call on the essence of the energy of the animals that will be so willing to provide that support. And that could be your actual pets too, right? I accidentally hit the pause button. It could be your pets as well. So um just yeah, well taking more time in nature. So I'm going to leave that there. I hope that that resonates. All the details will be in the description box below for all the different offers that will be available throughout the month of August. And I look forward to connecting with you soon in some capacity. All right, let's move into B. So if you've chosen this one here with the soul experience, funny the words that are coming through. Choose your own soul adventure. Oh, there's a playful, joyful energy here for sure. I'm seeing a lot of carnivals, like images like carnivals, carnival rides, like exhilarating experiences, almost like um extreme, not quite extreme sports, but just like that roller coaster feeling of, and I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. It's like that, oh, that like kind of butterflies turning in your stomach, exhilaration type feeling or experience. Okay, what is that? It almost makes me feel giddy. It almost feels like teenage love, like that giddy feeling. And I don't think it's necessarily connected to another. It could be, but it there's a giddy state of being and there's a lot of energy of yellow coming through this reading, gold, yellow, but it's almost like how I want to describe it is like finally getting to a place where you can laugh at yourself or not take things so seriously as what you have or may done in the past. There's a lightheartedness that's coming in. It's almost like, when you see the cosmic joke and you can have a laugh about something that had been really burdensome or heavy. It's almost like this feeling of like, I'm glad that's over. Now I can see the lightheartedness to it. Now I can have more time to be playful, to be fun, and like take those time out to like engage in activities that maybe are somehow connected to childhood. Um, like I'm seeing like all the theme parks and stuff that I used to go to a lot when I was a child, how much I used to love going on rides, like just um that kind of sense or feeling is coming through a lot with this. So what have we got? We've got 19, the balanced forces. 3, we've got the sacral chakra. 22, we've got the crystal keys. And then we have the 42, reclaim your energy. I feel like reciting backwards with just how I've like laid them all out. So I think the first and foremost is like the reclaiming of self or energy of whatever heaviness perhaps you've been through or still kind of weaving through. It's like, I feel like whatever that represents in your life is carrying much more than what is your own. So just being able to do any type of declaration or energy clearing to call back the most important parts of self back to you, because it feels like your energy has been dispersed and it feels like a heaviness or weighed down. And this could be talking from the past or like starting to move or come out of that, of giving away too much energy and space and time to other people, drama, things that aren't necessarily your problem. Can I say that? Oh, yeah. Um, so it feels like there's a real distinct or shift of like, no, 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 like I need to focus for me right now. I can't give my attention to this or that or whatever's playing out. It's like there's this, I almost want to call it like a fundamental flip in a recentering within you. And when I was talking about all that yellow energy or golden energy, it feels centered around the stomach area. And how I'm seeing is like a flip or a reversal. So it's almost like an inactive or operating sense of self, identity, personal empowerment, all the things that is represented from the gut area that has been in a reversal. It's almost like that gets flipped and rotated. So you're kind of much more in your own energy and stream of, I know who I am, I know my power, I call back my power. Like that feels incredibly powerful. Being in that knowing and actioning from that place gets you into that really fun, light-hearted. So we've got the crystal keys, 22, That to me feels like an activate, like an internal activation of your own keys or codes crystallizing or actual like being actually actualizing like a real profound deep sense of self-worth that I feel like you haven't been really able to access for some time, because I feel like in your field it feels like there has been too many influences, too many voices, too many opinions, impressions that has pulled you down in how you perceive yourself, and it's not yours to take on or carry anymore. And that's what kind of comes in with that flip or rotation. And that reverberates out. Mm, yeah, I'm just sitting with that. So then we're going into how the sacral chakra, the core of creation. And I feel like with that, what I was talking about, like in the center and the core, it's like once that realigns itself, gets into its like upright position, it's like you can then tap into a level of access of your own creational energy that you haven't yet been able to access. Because it's like all that other stuff feels like it's like, and it's like I can get into the deep core of my creational essence of who I truly am. And that feels so profound. It feels as though there's an unharnessed or untapped potential in your creativity. And this could be, you know, creative expression as an artist of some description, but it could just be the remastering and recreating of your own life. Um, and it can come in such micro ways, but it feels very primal, it feels very core, it almost feels a little bit assertive, really hyper focused on what it is that you're got your eye on the prize of, whatever like you feel like your long-term, short-term, long-term focus is. And it's like that internal energy, almost like a fire that's like internally fueling you in a higher energy, passion, drive to kind of get you on point. It feels good. So yeah, balanced forces. Sorry. Internal private joke to myself here. I feel like this is connected to going back to like all the clutter in your field that kind of then gets thrown to the side or thrown out throughout this time. And it feels like that whatever's happening within you balances whatever has been impacting you externally, whether that's a person, people, unforeseen energies, a combination of it. Feels like this is the month that you can like really rebalance the scales within yourself and within your own life. It feels like things just get back on track. Recovery. For some people, it could be addiction or some form of addiction that has been like a superimposed aspect of the journey. It doesn't necessarily mean substances. It could be like any sort of form of addiction, codependency. That feels like it's getting recorrected. And ultimately, like one word that feels like it wants to summarize, like it's a liberation for you to get back to who you truly are. And there may be reminders along the way of memories popping up or little key periods in time that come back to you through dreams or daydreams, or just like, how do I describe it? It's always like little drop-ins of visuals of points in time. Um, that keep propelling you further, that perhaps you get another look into, that make more sense now than they did before. Like looking back over significant key moments in your life that you knew were important, but perhaps didn't necessarily fully understand. And it's like that has more significance and meaning to propel you to go further, stay focused. And yeah, I just keep getting that word, keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the prize. I put that back before and I was like, oh, let's not go there. And it popped out again, so I can't. So we have the secret. This is unearthing hidden truths that come to light that can be shocking or disturbing. But these are necessary parts. It's almost like there's one facet or component to this of perhaps what has been playing out or still in the recovery phase of what has been, where you've had a hunch, intuitive hunch, an idea of something that you thought was completely crazy. And it was so absurd that you were like, no, like I'm just a crazy person to even engage in thinking that is actually real. But it's almost like whatever your intuitive hunch was, that was actuality, that was actually taking place, that was occurring. And this may have already been revealed. To me, it almost feels like whatever the secret is has already been uncovered to some degree. I don't get the sense that it's like a earth-shattering shock. It's just a more like reaffirming what you already know, but maybe getting more details. And it feels like that is a bit of a fuel to the fire to propel you further to go through this process of transformation. And it may be just confirmations of things that you thought, and then it, like, yeah, the truth comes to light, and it's like, yeah, well, so that's what I mean. It's like it's not groundbreaking, shocking. It's like just affirming what your intuition was already telling you, but you're getting the solid hard facts of that. And then we have the serendipity card, which I love, that, you know, that talks to like divine guidance coming in, that star-like quality that guides you to the next, to the next. It's like that little voice, that angel on your shoulder that directs you and guides you to go and do things and go to places, and the interactions that you have with people. This is a serendipitous unfolding of events that leads to an ultimate it's not a destination, but milestone that kind of reaffirms that keep your eye on the prize message, like keep going, because the pieces start to really come together and fall into place. Mm. We have the Emperor, masculine influence or power, taking back your power, stepping into your power, the rise of the masculine aspect within yourself to really take control. We have the celebration, Three of Cups. All right, I'm not going to put them back in, but we've got the Tower, the Ten of Wands, and the Five of Swords. This feels like the energy you're moving out of. These two feel like the kind of moving into. So obviously discovery, change, adjustments, like, yeah, the revelations, the secret cards, the affirming, yes, this was happening all along. I knew it. Now I have the evidence to prove it. So I can make the adjustments and changes, which then in turn allows you to put down your burdens, because of the weight that was carried that wasn't yours. Is can you can now be freed from that, and then the past problems and challenges and mental conflict, and feel like you're constantly walking up a hill that never ends. It feels like you kind of reach the peak by reclaiming your power, stepping back, and then you can get to that joyful where we started in the beginning of this. It feels like it comes into full circle. You will then come back to that playful lightheartedness, seeing yeah, seeing the lightheartedness in what may have been hard or challenging, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And it almost feels like there are a lot of shifts and changes already in progress. So it's kind of like pathing you into that new phase or new trajectory. So it feels like a very, I almost want to say, like, however the month starts off, you'll be in a totally different space by the end of the month. So I'm going to leave that there. I hope that that resonates for you. Um, if you want to connect with me through all the different things that are going on, all the details will be in the description box below. And if not, I will catch you next time. All right. Lucky last. Let's see. Where are we? So this image actually came through to me after going through that process I mentioned in the energy update of just doing those declarations of like pulling back my energy. I woke up the next morning with the most severe energy hangover headache I've had in a long time. And it felt like something was fully recalibrating in my brain. And that went on for like over 24 hours. And I was told it was going to take 3 days to settle, which today is actually the third day as I record this. But the image that I got literally looked like an atom in my head. Um, and that was the inspiration for that one. So maybe there's something going on in resonance or alignment of um, consciousness or brain recalibration. When I get those really quite severe headaches, like I know that's to me an indication of like quite a significant timeline jump or trajectory. But it feels like, yeah, quite heady, quite brainy. And just as I tune into this energy, it feels like at present there's like a lot of energetic debris or squiggles or a lot of entanglement happening in the mind. Like the mind feels very busy and a little bit scattered, but it feels like underneath all that, there's something that's kind of getting really rare into like, it feels like underneath all the scatteredness of scattered thoughts, it feels like there's method to that madness because it feels like everything wants to resort itself and file itself. So you may be having very vivid dreams of this type of refiling, reorganizing, processing, because underneath that feels like the hidden gem that's trying to be accessed as a part of your like inside ability. I don't know what it is that I'm seeing here. It's like a golden, it's definitely gold. It's an intricate pattern. Feels like it's like within the third eye or the pineal gland. And it feels like it's throbbing or pulsating. And it's like trying to get your attention. It's like whatever information is encoded in that, it feels like it's, oh, I feel dizzy. Um, it feels like whatever that is wants to be accessed by you, something that has been deeply locked or hidden, but it's a hidden gem. It's like the burst of like genius inside. Like I feel like the energy of like a real genius savant. Like it's almost like it's been locked under guard until a certain time, even hidden away from you. But there's an ability that you have access to that's like a hidden gem within you that wants to be kind of brought to the surface. I don't know what this is. I hope that this makes sense to someone. But it feels like creative genius, also like it's like, when you see those kids that just like at the age of 2 or 3 can play Beethoven's symphony, like that's the type of vibe that I'm getting from this. It may be, and I have no doubt it'll be expressed in many different ways, but there's a hidden genius that wants to be unlocked within you. So it's like clearing out, processing all the clutter, things that may have shut you down or deterred you away from that. Mental programming. It feels like there's a lot of static in the head, a lot of static. So that needs to kind of be worked with or dealt with to clear to access this. Okay, we've got the sun and we have the 6 of coins, the unexpected help. We have the lovers. This feels like an interlink or interwoven connection into good fortune, 9 of coins, 9 of cups. There feels like there's a direct link to reading A. But anyway, let's dive in here. We've got the sun, so the awards, the attention, like this is like receiving. And this almost looks like what I was describing, right? The gold thing in the head. I love it. I love it when the cards align with this feels like the ultimate objective of like being able to receive the notoriety, the awards, the attention, the what's the word I'm looking for here? The recognition for what it is. But that feels like the ultimate objective. But in and around that, we've got the 9 of coins. Sorry. Yeah, the 9 and the 6 of coins. So we've got unexpected finance and abundance, windfall, good fortune, money coming in to be able to assist you. I feel like once you unlock this, it opens up the doorways of financial abundance and support to be able to get you to all the necessary requirements and components that you need to actualize this and bring this into the world. So it's like you unlock that. It feels like it just has this beautiful onflow or ripple. We also have the lovers and the 9 of cups. And that's why I was saying like it kind of, I won't go back into reading A, but you might want to go into it because that was really talking about 2 people working on the same thing. And I think there's crossover here. But this is a powerful factor, influence, driving force. It has a very etheric nature, but it feels like being in that harmonization of union or divine union and being in that trying to find the right descriptive words, the energy of when you're in that relationship bliss, it's like that's a frequency that you can generate regardless of your circumstance situation. And it's like unlocking this thing feels like it kind of has that influence or impact or effect. It's, but what what is actually occurring? Like, does that impact or work with another? I get a strong yes, but I'm not getting specifics around it. There is like a divine coupling. Quantum entanglement piece with this reading too. This feels romantic where it could have gone either way. This feels like it has much more of a divine soul connection union type influence. It's funny, all the pictures, all the words are gone. It's like that is yet to be uncovered or known or explored because it's not the primary focus of it, but it feels like it's a ripple effect of it. Like a nice surprise. It's like that's not your focus or objective. um but it's a flow-on effect that it has like a really positive beneficial impact and influence in your relationship or relationships, but it feels specific to one other connection. So these cards are just kind of reiterating. We've got the confusion cards. So I was talking about the mind and the confusion and everything. Like, what's that movie? Everything, everywhere, all at once. Everything's going on in here, and it's like the primary objective is to clear that and go through this process of mental recalibration and transformation to get the ultimate clarity. It's almost like, yeah, the God code within the mind that is the game changer for you, is to be able to access that of what is already that higher intelligence within you. Yeah, call it a God code, a source code, your spark or effort, essence that hasn't yet been. I'm so excited with this reading that there's such an excite. Like I feel like there's a lot of really positive, impactful, unknown surprises that will just kind of come out of nowhere, like and really be such a positive guiding force or influence. It's like I can't, it's almost like I've been shut down from seeing it. I'm not meant to put words around it, but I can feel the energy of it. Like it's right there. It's right there. Pleasantly surprised, I feel. Hmm. Endless opportunities. 23. And the third eye chakra, pineal perspective. Of course, it's all the head stuff. So it's like unlocking. Yeah, there's definitely a crossover with the. You might want to go back to A. There's because there's the pyramids that I was. That's exactly what I was saying. The pyramids, the blue pyramids, the energetic overlays. But it's like, yeah, that activation that happens in that pop, that open. It's being able to see things multidimensionally, seeing through other perspectives, seeing through other people's eyes, almost perhaps for some of you. But it's like you then step into the realm of endless or limitless possibilities and opportunities that then start to arise from that internal unlocking process. Really, really quite exciting. I like just one more, two more. 43, she of the lotus, and then we've got the crown chakra. This feels to me like directly dialing in and connecting into some type of divine consciousness. You know, when you look at these cards, like Look at the crown, what's happening. It's like all this expansion and opening and streams of energy and coming in. It feels like from the beginning of like this confusion place to everything reorganizing itself into this like upward stream of just being able to tap in to this unlimited potentiality. So I don't think there's any more to say. um, I hope that that has hit on some points and has helped support you in some capacity. Of course, if you'd like to connect with me with all the different events and offers um, for this month, all the details will be in the description box below. And if not, I will connect with you next time. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I so appreciate all your comments and shares. So much love and gratitude. And I will connect with you all soon. Bye bye.